And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome back to RBLR Sports, covering all things about our wonderful Tampa Bay sports teams. And as much as we're trying to stay dry after the effects of Hurricane, Tropical Storm, Etna, my name is Eureka, and with me is my co-host, my co-pilot, my partner in crime here, Musab. Musab, you staying dry out there, man?
I'm staying drier than ever. It's been a nice, dry, somewhat dry day in Tampa Bay compared to yesterday, Wednesday, November 11th. But I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. What about you?
Been doing all right, man, and it's been kind of a bad weekend, all things sports related, but then just getting ready and kind of watching the updates on the weather and the rain that started before the big storm came. But all things being equal, we're doing all right here in the household. So today, though, I think you and I are slated for a really good discussion between the three big topics of the Buccaneers' big loss to the division rival, the New Orleans Saints, and kind of what happened in that game, and also kind of what that means going forward as they turn their attention to Carolina and the Carolina Panthers. And then I think we'll finish it up with big news about the Rays manager winning Manager of the Year in the American League. So with all that said, I think let's get into our first big topic, and that is the huge loss to the New Orleans Saints. I mean, this was as close to a playoff game as we're going to get this early in the season, where you had two teams at the top of the NFC South, and really this was that the winner of this would probably have the tiebreaker, and this is a matchup we might see again in the playoffs. But all those tests and all those things that we thought the Bucs would have to do to beat the Saints, it seems like each one of them were spectacular failures. I know you had said the big keys to the game were Tampa protecting the ball and stopping the rushing game and controlling Alvin Kamara, and then also Tom Brady kind of utilizing his skill over the biggest matchup is the defensive backs being overpowered by Tom Brady. Now each one of those, I think, kind of got flipped on its head in the wrong way. They were keys to the game, but they were keys that the Saints were able to capitalize on over the Bucs. So with all that, I think, Musab, can you maybe shine some light on kind of what we've seen out of the Bucs in this game? And I think one of the questions I would ask you was, should we have seen all this coming? What happened to we knew the Saints offense was going to be a little bit powerful, but kind of how did this result happen against the Bucs?
Well, I'll just start out with it just wasn't how it happened. It just didn't. It's because things didn't work out for the Buccaneers. As we talked about last week, my prediction was 38-27. Drew Brees is absolutely amazing, and the Saints have been very good, and they got Michael Thomas back, and they got Emmanuel Sanders and Alvin Kamara. But I was thinking, from our past games that especially against the Raiders and Packers, we'd be able to stop some dominant team like this. But there just wasn't much that went right for the Buccaneers this past Sunday against our division rival. The only points in our 38-3 loss came from our kicker, Ryan Suckup, who actually now has the third most points of any kicker in the league with 74. However, even as nice as that kick was, it just was not enough. And the players and coaches know it too. And it was a tough loss, especially one that was being nationally televised. And to me, it's just not a game that represents who we are. In a post-game interview, Coach Bruce Arians called the whole performance uncharacteristic. And even Levante David had some words just saying that it just wasn't who we were. Things just weren't working right. Um, the things I just first of all want to talk about are kind of the main takeaways from what I got from the game. The first thing is it was the slow start of the Bucks that just kind of really was caused us to be doomed from the beginning. The Buccaneers started with the ball in their hands after the Saints won the toss, but we went consistently. We were going three and out, and as soon as New Orleans got their chance with the ball, they were swinging, they were attacking, scoring touchdowns, and even after the first and second touchdown, I was thinking, okay, well, I'm hoping our Bucks can answer, but uh, they really couldn't. The defense was kicking in and able to stop the Saints, here and there. Um, for example, with a forced fumble by safety Jordan Whitehead. But while it did keep points off the board, it placed the Bucks offense in a bad field position, and they just weren't able to get anything going on. Even if we did have some good defense performances. What all this did was it just put Bucks in a state of playing catch up. They needed yards and they needed them quickly. Um, to me, it looks like they did a lot of things, but abandon kind of the run game in favor of the pass to try to gain some junk yardage or some chunky yardage is actually what I meant to say. Um, you know, passing can't just be anyone's really game plan, and I'm sure Bruce Arians got that from himself. Offensively, I think the game plan was just too fast. It just really just the whole chemistry was just not there. I think the slow start kind of maybe put us in kind of panic mode. We're thinking, oh yikes, and from the start, I guess we're thinking, it's Drew Brees first of all, who's a veteran, who's been wonderful since the start of his career, and now we got a weapon like Alvin Kamara, but also Michael Thomas is back. So it's just we definitely had some. We were aware that obviously it wasn't going to be an easy game at all, but I was thinking we were going to have some good plans for the running game. Especially when we're down something like 14-0 or 21-0, and at times we were trying to jumpstart it, but it just didn't work. There was a domino effect from there, kind of putting stress on the offensive line, more pressure on Brady, causing the offense to sputter, and then the defense was just on the field way too much as a result. But and because of that, fatigue was setting in. And they just couldn't seem to get off of it. Punting seemed to also be an issue on special teams. So it just, I just think, to me, one of the big things from the game was the slow start. It's one thing if you're down 7-0 or even 14-0 and you immediately kind of clap back with a 14-7, kind of score, but it just wasn't our kind of football we were playing. So unfortunately, it was caused us to suffer.
Yeah, let's see. I'm thinking that one of the things I saw was when we were on offense, Brady seemed to be kind of forcing long downfield throws, and it was that coupled with really good pressure from the front seven of the Saints. You're talking about they just didn't have the flow. They just didn't have like their mojo going, and really the only good plays that were coming out of the offense were, Jones having kind of a 7-yard rush, an 8-yard rush, but when putting the ball in the hands of Brady, he was kind of underthrowing some balls, overthrowing Gronkowski, trying to send it deep into double coverage against Antonio Brown, and Antonio Brown kind of like played defensive back himself and kind of was able to bat the ball away. But every one of these possessions that the Bucs had was coming off of a touchdown from the Saints, and every time it was punt, interception, and by that time. By the time the Brady interception happened, they scored another touchdown, and it was literally the end of the game. Is that, when you haven't gotten a first down until you're already down 21-0, that's kind of when you would expect the offense to switch into throwing downfield, but that's kind of what they had been doing up to that point. And that's one of the reasons that they literally abandoned the run for the rest. They ran 2 more times the rest of the game to that point. It was just it was frustrating on all sides too, because when you're looking at how the Saints were picking apart the defense, the Bucs were kind of playing a zone coverage. And Murphy Bunting giving up that first touchdown was just like a dagger in the heart, because the Bucs had them at 3rd and 10, and Murphy Bunting gives up Murphy Bunting kind of comes in and then gives up his man, and the guy's just able to tiptoe in the back of the end zone. I didn't want to step on your toes if you were going to bring up some things about kind of how the Saints offense was able to pick apart the defense, but that's kind of one of the things I had seen, is that they really didn't have a lot of answers for guys like Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara, right?
Absolutely, especially for Taysom Hill. I just, he's always been like, that all around player, someone I've always been jealous about in the whole league. Actually, I don't think there's many players like him. Someone who can do a little bit of everything. So just the fact that they have that kind of weapon, it's a little scary. And you're thinking, okay, well, we're aware, we know who he is, but do we know how to stop him? We should. We just weren't able to, though. He had 54 yards rushing. He was able to throw 2 complete passes, and even for receiving, he had 21 yards, which is just, you're thinking he's doing a little bit of everything. I think just the fact that our offense was going 3 and out and consistently punting, it was exhausting our defense. And I do want to talk about the fact that I think, a few things on both sides of the ball that kind of caused a little bit of this was, first of all, the coaching has been really glaring, weaknesses in, our first 8 games, but this past Sunday was looking kind of poor to me. Offensively, the play calls by Byron Leftwich were just puzzling at times, particularly designing plays where running backs are primary targets on a team loaded with receiver talent. It's inexcusable that Ronald Jones had 4 targets in the first half and Mike Evans had none. And then defensively, Todd Bowles was taken to the woodshed by the Saints head coach Sean Payton, continually playing a soft zone and hoping your front 4 could get a quarterback, could get to the quarterback. Drew Brees it's like I saw it. I think my buddy was telling me it's football suicide. That's the way he put it. Is there a quarterback in NFL history that has proven to be better against zone coverage than Drew Brees? I'm not sure, but and maybe even more was the lack of adjustments at any point in the first half, especially when the Saints are up 31-0. It was just disappointing to me that we kept on trying. We were trying the same things, the way I'm looking at it. Maybe we did change a few things in the second half, but lastly, for the coaches, head coach Bruce Arians I don't think he really had his team ready to play on Sunday. As I was expecting him to. Whether it was the players kind of maybe enjoying, how far, we've come, or just not really being mentally sharp enough to perform well. At the end of the day, I think it just falls on Bruce Arians, and I don't want to just throw the whole blame on him, but the way I'm looking at it after that close game against the Giants, I was really hoping, okay, well, we scraped through the Giants, and a win's a win, so that's always nice that we got the win, but I was really expecting Bruce Arians to take this game very, very seriously. Maybe he did, and he just didn't really have the right ideas, and maybe that's why we lost. But the few other players I just was a little disappointed in was Tom Brady, and I'm not throwing the complete blame on him, but the Bucs offensive line just wasn't good on Sunday night. Offensive coordinator left, which was overmatched by the Saints. Defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. But even with that said, Bucs quarterback Tom Brady just wasn't close to the same player we've seen over the last few weeks. And I'm not saying I'm looking for a prime Tom Brady from the Pats. But just Brady just to me seemed to bail early at times when footsteps were getting close. And when he did have time, he missed a couple of throws. I'm sure he would have loved to have back. And lastly, about Brady, his decision making on where he went with the football just wasn't as good as it's been in the recent few weeks. As you were mentioning, we're looking way too much for the deep balls. I just feel like we weren't really giving rest time to our defense. Even if we're kind of just getting a few yards, we're thinking, okay, the way I'm looking at it is, all we really need is about 2.5 yards per possession, or if we're going 3 and out, preferably maybe 3 or 4 yards. So hopefully, we're playing smart, and we're getting a few yards here and there, but we were just looking a little too much for the deep throws, long passes, and maybe pushing a little too much on our rushing in the beginning of the game. Kind of overall leading Brady going 22 for 38 and 209 yards, but 3 interceptions. So and a really poor QB rating compared to Drew Brees. And then with the offensive line, not to throw any blame, but I've been watching him for the past few weeks. He's had his good times, but his bad times too. Donovan Smith, just kind of giving up that that sack pressure on a few plays. I think even one back-to-back play, he just given easy pressure to Tom Brady, which was not something I liked at all. And he had a holding penalty, on an 8-yard run by Ronald Jones that led to a 2nd and 20. So it just the Bucs just weren't able to convert at all. And next up, I just wanted to talk a little about two people I was really hoping, all right, maybe, I'm not expecting a spectacular game just because it is the Saints, but it just wasn't really what I was expecting at all in regards to a disappointing performance by Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamel Dean. The way I'm looking at it, unfortunately, this is kind of looking like a little habit. Murphy-Bunting wasn't just beating on the Saints' first quarter kind of scores, but he was blowing coverage. I don't know if you saw that play. I forgot who got the touchdown, but they just left one Saints wide receiver just completely open, and you saw that tippy toe touchdown. I think it was the first or second touchdown, and the first one, and that just really just got me a little riled up. That this is absolutely not our Bucs defense at all. And you could see Murphy-Bunting looking a little confused just before the snap, and then Jamel Dean was clearly not on the same page. And then second quarter, Jamel Dean was beaten by Emmanuel Sanders for a touchdown that caused the Saints to be up 21-0. So I think the communication maybe also just wasn't there on the defense side. Being a defensive back is not an easy position at all. But communicating with your teammates it's not hard. I just think we just weren't on the same page. The players weren't on the same page when it came to defense. The Bucs pass rush, only one sack to get Drew Brees down. Bucs came into this game with a plan of playing more zone and getting to Brees with 4 rushers, but it didn't work out well at all. And I was scratching my head wondering why the Bucs didn't do the exact opposite. But if Brees had all day, if Brees has all day to sit in the pocket, he will pick you apart. And that's kind of a little bit about what we got.
Yeah, they say, okay, the game plan is don't, like, they even kind of said this on the television program, like, don't blitz Brady, don't blitz Breeze, because they'll pick you apart. But exactly what you said is like, well, the alternative is to sit back and kind of like have play a good coverage game. And the defensive backs we're talking about, Dean and Murphy Bunting, these guys are really young. And that's encouraging that they're as good as we think they are right now. But they all picked a bad day to have a bad game. And exactly what you were saying, I kind of prescribe to how we've been playing defense this year, which is, you have to be unpredictable. They'll know we're sending a blitz, but if you're able to disguise it in coverage, if you're able to play man against those receivers, and so you have an extra guy to shoot the gap and put Breeze on his butt, because that's what the Saints were doing against Breeze, and they were aggressive. They were flying around. They were attacking the offensive line. They were making Brady think about his blind side. They were forcing him to throw the ball into bad coverages. They were doing all the things that we were hoping we would see our defense force Breeze into, because it's like, they had, just like we had Antonio Brown kind of being integrated into the offense, they had, Emmanuel Sanders just coming back. They had Michael Thomas just coming back. So maybe there was a little bit of an area where the route running's a little stiff and not exactly where it should be. And that maybe those little windows of hesitation are where you can get a Devin White sack. You can, because putting Devin White into pass coverage, I think we've seen this year that it's not a very good idea. And so without sending a lot of pressure, I think that you're seeing the outcome where you gave a Hall of Famer who's still flinging the ball around this year just ample time to kind of pick apart the zone that they're playing. And even in the one-on-one opportunities, finding those little windows, he's able to do it. So I agree that why they just sat back in a zone and kind of let Breeze pick however he was going to slice him away, especially when you have so many weapons that the Saints have. You've got Kamara that can line up, and he did. He lined up as a receiver. He came out of the backfield. He ended up with, not only 40 rushing yards, but he was targeted 6 times out of the backfield. And so while they were able to kind of shut down Kamara in the passing game, it's just that, like, you're focusing so much in on that you end up having, 4 different guys go over 5 different guys have 30 or more receptions, receiving yards, and so only one of those was a super long, deep play. That was that Deontay Harris, where most of those came yards after reception. So he broke a couple tackles and sprinted down the sideline. But you let Brees sit back there, and you're focusing in on Kamara, but Michael Thomas gets 5 receptions. Troutman gets 3 receptions, including the touchdown. Emmanuel Sanders comes back and gets 5 targets, 4 receptions, and they were just able to spread the ball around and do whatever they wanted. And by the time the Bucs even got anything going on offense, they were already down by 4 touchdowns. So with all that said, is there anybody or anything that you think actually, are there people that had a good game? Is there anything uplifting that you think we can take out of this game against the Saints before we put it in our rearview mirror and never speak of it again until the
Absolutely,
playoffs?
absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm not gonna, sugarcoat anything to our listeners, but to our listeners, you're smart enough to know that there weren't that many impressive performances from the Bucs players in this game against the Saints. But if there was anything to put a positive on, this was it. These three players, first being safety Jordan Whitehead. At a time of the game where the Bucs needed a splash play, Whitehead delivered, stripping tight end Jared Cook near the goal line. The Bucs have had a success with getting turnovers in timely fashion, and that was one of them. The offense wasn't able to capitalize, but it was a big play before the game got out of hand. And Whitehead was the second on the team with 8 tackles and led the team with 2 tackles for a loss, which was nice to see, even though it was a rough game. And then second is our linebacker, Shaq Berry. Getting pressure on Drew Brees was an issue, but early in the second half, when there was a sliver of believability that the Bucs had a chance, Barrett created a huge turnover. Our veteran edge defender was able to strip sack Brees early in the third quarter, giving the Bucs offense the ball in the red zone. And it could have swung the momentum a bit if the Bucs could punch the ball in, but unfortunately they failed to do so. However, Barrett finished the game with 4 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble, which to me seemed like a good performance, especially going against a good team like the Saints. And the last person was Levante David. To me, he's always been a hard worker on the field. He was injured at one point and kind of just jogged off on his own power, but came back right away and didn't miss much time. David recovered a fumble early on, was still giving it his all, even when it was very late in the game and the lead was out of reach. He's been a leader of this team for a few years, or many years now, and he kept at it despite the lopsided score. And Levante David ended with 7 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and a fumble recovery. So definitely a shout out to those 3 players. It's nice to see that the way I was looking at it, and I was talking to my buddy about this, was he was telling me, it's nice to see that we didn't really give up, but it's I'm thinking to myself though is we were taking hard punches throughout the game, but it's just to me, I'm thinking, okay, if we are taking, kind of, these beatings on, each possession, it's how strong is our team to kind of fight back, regardless of, if we're not going to really, get this game. I'm thinking, okay, well, at least in the second half, and I was talking about this before, is I was hoping second half we were going to at least get a few points on the board. Definitely not it. It's overall, kind of like the last few remarks I just want to say really about this game, and then we can kind of put it in our rear view mirror, is just, it's the Saints is like, it always seems that the Saints kind of, have our number. Lattimore is always in Mike Evans' head. Cameron Jordan has, always been kind of getting in Donovan Smith's head, playing, Donovan Smith, who's been playing with very little confidence from, kind of maybe all the crap talk, and our defense just wasn't able to cover really much as I was thinking. And to me, it's like the Saints is that one team that was assembled to neutralize the Buccaneers. We're about to get swept by the New Orleans and lose first place of the division, and it really hurts that our team can, never perform against the New Orleans, and it's always at the most unopportunistic times. So I've been prepared all week for all those Tom Brady haters and all those Bucs haters to say, oh, the Bucs are overrated, when in reality we just we kind of just we choke at primetime games, and to me, so far this season, more this past game than the first game. Breeze is he's he's been a Buccaneer killer, and it's just I don't know, man. It just really came out of nowhere for me. I was at a loss of words, and that's really all I had. And I just do want to say is, the Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, and Taysom Hill kind of little trio, uh, you know, combining together, it was way too deadly for us. The Bucks have only allowed only 10 such runs in the first 8 games of the season, like the runs that Kamara, Murray, and Taysom Hill had. And it's just our own rushing attack just really really started out slowly. It just wasn't even our offense. So that's that's really about it. In my opinion. Kind of maybe the last point is the fact that this game, it's one thing, when you lose to the Bears, like, by 1 point. It's a different. What I mean to say is the loss of the Bears game and the Saints game are kind of different kind of losses. That loss was a little more kind of a little more depressing. This one was just a little more agitating. It seemed like after this game, the fans, but I would say specifically the coaches and players were really really ticked off. But it's nothing they can do now, and it's the Saints though. I'm thinking to myself, okay. It's they're I have to give credit to them. It's not like they're a bad team. If we lost like this twice to a team like the Bears, I would be very 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 mad. But I know they're our rivals, but I do wish them the best. Just because, hey, if we're gonna lose to a team 38-3, I'm hoping they can take down some other teams. Because I don't want our team looking like an embarrassment. Is what I'm really saying. I don't want our team looking like an embarrassment. So that's all I really been thinking about. We've got to get ready for Carolina now. It's this kind of I'm hoping all this anger, but I'm also thinking that this anger / motivation should be used for our next game. Um, and we should all be ready. And I was really hoping to talk about Antonio Brown. And while he was able to get some yards on the board. It was just 31 yards, just 3 receptions, one, and his longest being 15 yards. And obviously, being Antonio Brown, kind of being out for a whole year, I wasn't expecting something super spectacular. But I'm just thinking to myself, just the fact that we have so many weapons. It's one thing if we don't use our weapons right, but I'm also thinking to myself, it's having Tom Brady, our veteran quarterback, and being known as the GOAT quarterback. I'm thinking, you have to make things, you have to make some things, work out. Even if you are down, ideally, I'm thinking, okay, if we're down 30, 31-0 after, the second quarter, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be really, really hard to come back. But hopefully, Tom Brady can, talk with his receiving unit and even his running backs about, what the game plan is. But maybe he did, but it didn't work out. But it just wasn't really our game at all overall. We just got outplayed, and they were kind of just playing with us later on in the game. When it came to the receiving unit for the Saints, they had about, I would say, 12, 13 guys who were able to get some catches, compared to our are 8. So it's just saying that, hey, and maybe they were just having some fun with the game after being up so much and knowing that, hey, our Bucs are not going to be able to catch up to them. So they're like, let's just play around a little bit, see what else we can do, for the future. But that's really all I have, Eureka. What about you? Do you have anything else
Okay.
to add?
Yeah. Yeah. The final thing I'll say about this is that I hope that loss is the biggest teacher. I hope that loss is the biggest motivator, and I hope that the images of seeing Jameis Winston come out and take a knee at the end of the game and then act like he had won the Super Bowl, or like he was the guy that went out there and scored all 38 points against the Bucs. I hope that those are the kind of things that become the bulletin board material. That those are the kind of things that this kind of galvanizes the team to do better, because we are coming on a huge stretch where the Bucs can pick up many victories. And coming up, we will talk about the next game, and that is the Carolina Panthers, as the Bucs look to turn around this loss and end the year over the next 7 games as champions of the NFC South, and that can all start with another divisional matchup against the Panthers. We'll get into that and the rest of the Bucs season after the break. Welcome back into RBLR Sports. Now that we've kind of transitioned away from one division rival in the Saints, we now have to look at going on the road to Carolina as the Tampa Bay Bucs now go into Panther territory. Now the Carolina Panthers right now are on a 4-game losing streak. They lost to the Chiefs last week. They lost to the Falcons, and then, of course, they played the Saints, but they only lost by 3 points to the Saints a couple weeks ago, and they did lose to the Bears. So these guys have played a lot of the same teams as the Bucs have in the last 4 weeks. But what I think I'll ask you here is, how do the Panthers stack up against the Bucs, seeing that the Panthers have a lot of the same threats that the Saints had last week, where you look at a guy like Alvin Kamara and you had to kind of key in on him. Well, the Panthers have Christian McCaffrey back, and so Christian McCaffrey definitely poses a lot of similar threats that Kamara does, where they can line him up in different positions, and they definitely want to use him a lot from scrimmage. Also, you have a mobile quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater that although he does make some questionable choices, he can eat zone defense alive, and he's kind of obviously not as good of a quarterback as Drew Brees, but he kind of molds that pocket passer like Brees, but also with the ability to get out of the pocket like a Taysom Hill, for instance, right? So they do run a lot of these motion, run past option plays, where they do a lot of good check down options. So with that on offense, they also have a very young and active defense who made life pretty hard for Patrick Mahomes for the first half of that game, before of course the Super Bowl champion Chiefs were able to kind of turn it on. But what do you see that the Bucs should be able to do against the Panthers this week to not repeat the loss of last week?
I think the first thing, since you brought up Teddy Bridgewater, is it's the passing attack. I think the Panthers are going to be looking at that to kind of shine against our Buccaneers. We've especially with our last game, we've had our really good games when it comes to our passing defense, but we are also very susceptible to giving up big plays. So we got to make sure that Teddy Bridgewater doesn't take some big shots down the field. We got to make sure there's very limited opportunities, and Tampa is one of the best at getting to the quarterback, and the way I've seen the Panthers is their offensive line has kind of struggled all season long, and you know, with a mobile quarterback, I know Bridgewater can still make things happen. Get the ball out quick and trust his receivers to get yards, even if it's kind of some small yards. But that I think the Bucs got an advantage when it comes to that, and I'm hoping they can stop that. And even with the offense, at least from what I've seen on reports and stuff like that, it appears that Christian McCaffrey is not expected to play
Ah.
due to a shoulder injury.
I was wrong then. Good. That's a good thing for
That
the
is a
Bucs.
good thing, yeah. And I mean that was the report I got about early this morning, and I mean I don't just because he has been banged up before, I don't see him coming into this game. Probably not unless things change, or I don't know really. But at least as of right now, reports and even the Panthers have kind of let the information out that Christian McCaffrey's not expected to play against the Buccaneers due to the shoulder injury. So that's nice because I mean the game he came back last week against the Chiefs, he was looking like a powerhouse, and I wasn't, I was thinking, okay, I mean, I have him on my fantasy team, so I'm hoping, okay, he can definitely help me out, he can definitely help me win, against my opponent. But he had a really, really good performance, especially from coming back. But fortunately, as a Bucs fan, there's a very high chance he will not be playing against us.
So Mike Davis would then continue. He'd go back in. How do you feel about Mike Davis facing up against the Bucs defense? And he's done all right as McCaffrey was out for a few weeks before. Do you think Davis poses the same kind of dual threat as McCaffrey does?
I don't think so. I think Christian McCaffrey is a special kind of running back. I think there's only a few running backs I can think from the top of my head who are special. I would say someone like Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, and McCaffrey are the three kind of running backs I have up there that are very big threats and are scary if I was the defense. So I don't think he's gonna do as well as McCaffrey would. But he's been getting that experience now that he's kind of taken up that that starter role. So I think he's going to learn from his teammates, going to learn from McCaffrey on the sideline, kind of giving him tips and stuff like that. And I don't know how many chances and how many opportunities he got last game against the Chiefs. I don't know if you do. But if I'll have to check that up. But if he had some good opportunities and he was making the best out of them, then I would definitely say we gotta look out for him. But it's just I just think the way I look at the Panthers' offenses, they don't. I mean, other than McCaffrey, I would say Bridgewater a little bit as well. But I just think that they got a little bit of everything. The way I'm looking at it, they got a little bit of everything, and it's just what I'm thinking of for our defense is, we got to make sure we got a little bit of everything. I mean, we have a lot, in my opinion, when it comes to defense, but we got to make sure we cover. If we're going to cover a lot of one thing, we got to still put a little bit of on our receivers, the running backs, tight end, a little bit of everything, because I think the Panthers are going to be looking at our looking for weaknesses against our Bucs. I'm hoping that especially our defense. This is really going to come down to me. This is really going to come down to the defense. I will say a little bit about the offense, but for now, this is going to come down to our defense. I'm hoping they're well rested. I'm hoping they learn from their lessons. A few of our players have been doing phenomenal, and I hope they keep that up. As mentioned before, Levante David and Shaq Berry and Jordan Whitehead. But I'm hoping Murphy Bunting and Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis, they can definitely get that communication straight, so they don't screw up anymore. And then I just also do want to look a little bit more into you know our offense now is Carolina has had trouble kind of stopping the run all season long. Um, the way I'm looking at it, they hopefully should worry about us, but um, the fact that we have we got a few key running backs, specifically, I do want to say specifically Fournette and Ronald Jones. It could be something that they're maybe not worried about. For the Panthers, Tampa Bay does not always run the ball with much success. However, keeping Tom Brady and that kind of aerial attack in check is going to be a tall task for the young secondary. Antonio Brown and Mike Evans present matchup issues for the Panthers, and double teaming either one is going to leave your defense in a tough spot. So, I'm hoping we can kind of play around with the secondaries a little bit. Just the fact that we got some big guys. First of all, we got Antonio Brown, who hopefully I'm hoping he's all warmed up with the Bucs. I know he hasn't gotten too much time, but being Antonio Brown and looking at his history, I'm hoping he can kind of adjust real quick. And then we got Mike Evans, a big boy. We got Gronkowski, who's also a big dog. So I'm hoping we can definitely take advantage of those things. Now kind of through a Carolina Panthers lens, for Carolina to have a good day defensively, they have no choice. They have no choice but to get pressure on our quarterback, which is something they haven't really done well too much. And so far, throughout this season, Tampa, our Bucs have protected Brady better than most expected. So they're gonna have to change it up. But I think Brady is gonna pick the defense apart if they do play something like zone coverage. I don't think there's gonna be too much pressure on him. There might be some things here and there, but as dangerous as Mike Evans is downfield, I'm hoping Carolina also doesn't force some throws to the boundary, kind of just so they don't kind of give those young corners on the Bucs some extra help with the sideline. Um, that's that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. But I do want to say now, kind of with kind of uh, my predictions. For
There you
yeah,
go.
you always know I always got my predictions, and I always got the predictions, and I always got my score.
Now, now this week, let's be. You were right last week. It's just the Bucks didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah,
Let's hope that you're right
yeah,
this week and that your predictions come
yeah.
true for the Bucks.
Um, you know, I don't. No. First of all, I want to say before I even make these predictions is I know Tom Brady. He's not a kind of guy to have two straight losses, unless it's some team like first of all, unless we're playing someone like maybe the Saints, this week. But fortunately, we're not. Um, week 9 was not kind to our Bucks, and Tom Brady's going to make sure week 10 is very kind to our Bucks. The first thing I'm hoping is Ronald Jones is going to have 100 yards rushing. Our Bucks offense did look out of sync all night against the Saints. And when the team is looked at its best, they have consistent running game with Ronald Jones. He has had a streak of 3 games over 100 yards at one point, and this coincided with the team's best stretch of play on both sides of the ball. Things went a little sideways when Leonard Fournette returned from the injury, but the Bucks only had 4 rushing attempts plus a kneel down against the Saints, which was completely unacceptable. But I do want to say that Carolina has struggled to stop the run all season. And we should, especially with that slow start against the Saints, we should expect the Buccaneers to deploy Jones early and often in this upcoming game. And then my fourth thing is we're I know my Bucks are going to be looking at the tape. Well, I should say I know our Bucks are going to be. We're going to be watching the tape. We're going to be, especially a loss like that. This is a very, very serious week. Definitely a tough week mentally on our Bucks defense. Our defense has been pretty consistent all season. They definitely struggled against the Saints, but the defense is we've had our good days and bad days against the run. It was a little tough against Breeze in the passing game, but and the thing is, they were unable to get Breeze uncomfortable in the pocket. Rarely blitzed him to kind of get him out of the rhythm. I think that's the big thing. It was just way too hard to get Breeze out of rhythm, and Teddy Bridgewater is not no Drew Brees. But I will say Teddy Bridgewater is someone I can see that if he is kind of getting in that rhythm and he's got his mojo, he can kind of get hot. He can, he has, as I mentioned before, he has a little bit of everything. So he can kind of, if he is smart, he will play, play his cards right. But the Bucs defense at its best when attacking and not playing zone schemes is definitely something deadly. So I think they're going to make Teddy Bridgewater pretty uncomfortable. We got some really good guys on our defense, our defensive line that I think are going to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes. And it really is hard to make the same mistakes, especially against after a really big loss. So I think that's something to look out for. I'm hoping we make Teddy Bridgewater uncomfortable. The third thing is I think the run defense may struggle a little bit. That's depending on how we really start and what Teddy Bridgewater is also thinking, along with offensive coordinator and head coach. But our run defense went into last Sunday's game as number 1 ranked rush defense, but we were just physically dominated. But and we were also dominated on the line of scrimmage by a Giants that had struggled to establish its running game all season in previous games. So this is becoming a trend, and it may fall into the way Carolina wants to play. Hopefully not, but. The Bucs could be missing Vita Vea, and Levante David left the game against the Saints with a knee issue. Hopefully, being the tough guy and hard-working guy he is, I think hopefully he should be able to come back. But if he can't play, it may complicate some team issues, stopping the run. Just because I think Levante David, he's got that leader vision. So. The thing is, someone's gonna have to step up to the plate. And I think someone can, but it just depends on who will. It will be nice, but my last two is, first of all, I think Mike Evans is going to be heavily involved. And maybe he will be heavily involved.
We're hoping both. Yeah.
We're hoping both, but I think he will be heavily involved. For the second time this season, Mike Evans was. Practically erased by the Saints, but I don't think that's going to happen against the Panthers. For the team to be at its best, Evans is going to need to be involved in the game plan early and often. If not, he can sometimes, begin to shut it down. Maybe last week's focus was kind of getting Antonio Brown acclimated, but this week, the way I'm looking at it, this week's is going to be Evans' focal point. He's always been our go-to guy along with Godwin. So and I'm hoping Bruce Arians as well reminds offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady to look towards Evans on pass plays. So to all my listeners, I'm hoping and I'm thinking to expect many early plays to be called with Evans as the primary target. As much as Brady may want to include Brown or anyone else, Scotty Miller, he cannot risk losing Evans and in turn losing support in the locker room. That's really bad. I just think the more that game went on with the Saints, I think the chemistry wasn't working out. I think Mike Evans was a little disappointed in his team, a little bit in himself too, but also his team. I just think, okay, well, if you're not going to throw to Evans, then you still got to make some smart plays. And then my last kind of prediction is I think the Bucs will only give up one touchdown, but it's going to be a long touchdown, in my opinion. I think the Tampa Bay defense, this is going to be partly they're going to give up a long touchdown, partly due to them kind of playing a little more aggressive style, which may leave more cornerbacks on an island with that one-on-one coverage, and it is the risk you take when playing blitz heavy scheme. And the Panthers have receivers who are capable of helping Bridgewater create big plays. This will not be big of an issue if the defense is also able to get sacks and turnovers, like they did the first time they played Carolina. But in conclusion, the trade-off will be worth it if it helps the defense give its offense a short field more often than not on Sunday. We just got to be dominant overall, as I say, and as I hope every game, we got to be dominant. I just think that, someone like Breeze, he has a special kind of vision, unlike most quarterbacks. I don't think Bridgewater has that, but being the mobile quarterback Bridgewater is, and if we're kind of chasing him down for a few seconds or something like that, and we're kind of we're fighting hard. A few of our D-line are fighting hard to kind of get to him a little bit. And we're getting near him. It's going to give him a little extra time, and it's gonna create that that cornerback island. That little one-on-one coverage, which it's just going to come down basically to our cornerbacks and our safeties to say, okay, well. If at times when our Bucs D line is not able to get to Bridgewater or pressure him very, very, very strongly, then to my cornerbacks and safeties, you gotta make sure you don't mess up then too, because if so, it's gonna be costly. I don't like, one thing I've been seeing here and there is these long I wouldn't say touchdown, but these long completions by our opponents. Sometimes they're just way too costly. It just mentally it affects both sides. When you get a long completion, if your offense you're really hyped. And you're like, okay, hey, let's keep this rhythm going. And then when you're on the defense side, on one hand you're thinking, oh crap, I can't believe we let that happen, or I can't believe one of us or a few of us screwed up on that. Maybe because just because we didn't communicate effectively. But it's also for the defense thinking, okay, yikes. They got a long completion, especially if it's at the 50-yard line, and now they're in our Bucs territory. We're thinking, oh my God, now we really can't screw up. So we're trying to be really careful. So that's really about it. It's just from that game with the Saints, I'm hoping that we have many ideas of what we need to do. But after all these predictions of mine, and before I kind of share my final score prediction, I just want to say the two key things is our Bucs need to make sure we start off strong, and we play smart. I'm really counting on I'm counting on everyone, but specifically I'm really counting on Tom Brady, Ronald Jones, and Mike Evans, specifically to do their job, and also our offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich to know, which weapon to use at which time. I just, it's one, for Ronald Jones, he's kind of like that, that what you expect kind of looking, running back, short, stocky guy, just like, most running backs. But with our wide receiver, Mike Evans, he is a big guy. I'm hoping he kind of, he uses that physicality, that body. Because, when he gets hot, he can really, really get in his rhythm. He is, I really like, one thing I like about Mike Evans is I could say he's humble, but he's also kind of those guys that I know he definitely talks trash on the field, So if he's really feeling it, I know he's going to be talking smack to the cornerbacks, kind of getting in their heads, which is a really good thing. And, once he's hot, I'm hoping Leftwich and Brady know that, hey, obviously we can't throw every single time to Evans because, the Panthers are going to know. But, hey, when we do have that chance, basically what I'm, in one sentence, what I'm saying is to Tom Brady specifically, maybe to Leftwich as well, but to Tom Brady specifically, just keep an eye on Mike Evans, especially when you have that time. All right, when you're about to give a short pass, obviously I understand, you don't have all the time in the world, and if you really need to get those, those chunk yards, keep kind of pushing it in, then yeah, absolutely throw it to someone else. But definitely keep an eye on Mike Evans. He's got that size advantage that, he's got that kind of, he's not some skinny tall guy. He's got some mass in him too. So he can definitely kind of, be a little rough, when catching the ball. He can definitely make sure that if, a cornerback or safety are to kind of, get on him as soon as he catches it, to make sure he doesn't kind of drop the ball, or to make sure he doesn't immediately get tackled or something, that he can kind of get a few more extra yards after he does catch the ball. That's really about it. And now for my final prediction. My prediction.
Here we go.
Yeah, drum roll, please. No.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
No, my final prediction, if all goes well, is and I was gonna say something a little different, but after finding out McCaffrey is injured, my prediction is 28-13 Buccaneers win.
All right. So you think it's gonna be? Well, I know you said only one touchdown. 28. Now, what do you think most of those out of those? What, 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns? 7, 4, no, 4. Yeah, math. Not my major at USF.
4 touchdowns.
Yeah. What do you think it'll be mostly passing, or is it going to be rushing and passing? What do you think the hookups in the end zone are going to be?
I'm thinking Gronk. I'm thinking Evans. I'm thinking maybe a few players, but I'm definitely thinking Gronk, Evans, and I really like Scotty Miller at times when he kind of gets those dive kind of catches. It's just to me what I'm expecting, and even Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette, actually more I would say Leonard Fournette in my opinion, just because he's really got that size where he can just really just kind of crash in the defense and kind of push the ball in himself with his legs or something. But we need to get that kind of quick rhythm. We need to be explosive in the red zone, meaning that once Brady kind of hikes it, we need to have immediately someone open, arms kind of hands up, and we need to get Brady to kind of throw a bullet to them, and they need to be ready. But now, the more that I'm thinking about it, as ideal as it would be to get a 28-13 win, I do think, and I say this more just for Ryan Suckup, I think he, if it does come down to this, and I just don't think the Bucs are just going to keep, using, just their offensive weapons. I think they might have to go to special teams at times. So, ideally, I'm thinking 31-13, but realistically, I'm thinking something like 28-13 in my opinion. Definitely more than 20 points for sure. As our Bucs have been playing in the past, I think they should definitely get more than 20 points for sure. And if if we play like we have played against the Packers or Raiders, we should definitely keep them to 13 or less. But my prediction is I'm thinking Gronk. I'm thinking Gronk is gonna, definitely get at least one touchdown in the end zone. But because I was talking about Gronk before, and just my last remark before I want to hear your thoughts, Eureka, is I think Gronk is, first of all, I mean to any really tight end, but I just really like Gronk just because he's kind of a I see him kind of as a little like a wild buffalo. He is a big guy. He has experience, so he knows what he needs to do. But I'm thinking, when we really need to get that first down, I think we can count on him. Can we always count on him for every third down conversion? I don't think so, because I know we have a bunch of other weapons. But I think he can definitely get those yards, and he's really just good at just kind of, once he does catch it, to kind of get a few more extra yards, and that's what I do like about him. So I'm thinking, just the way I'm picturing my head for Gronk's touchdown, I'm thinking, we're gonna be at the 7 or 8 yard line. Gronk's gonna catch it at the 2 yard line. Some kind of small 5'9", 5'10" cornerback. Not sure who it's gonna be, or if that's even their height or size or whatever. But I'm thinking they're gonna try to get Gronk, but Gronk's gonna be able to kind of size him up, and push forward and definitely get one touchdown. So that's I guess that's my sixth bold prediction is Gronk's gonna get a red zone touchdown.
There you go. Yeah, and I agree because looking at how the Panthers played the Chiefs last week, the defense does give up short routes in the passing game, and so especially to tight ends. Kelsey was able to kind of eat, and I think that between Gronkowski and Brait and whoever they want to throw over that middle. Especially now that the hope and the prayer is that with Antonio Brown kind of integrated a little bit better in the offense, is that we are able to kind of spread the field, and so there is a short to intermediate route for the tight end and kind of force their linebackers to play kind of out of position against a guy who's bigger and stronger, like you're saying. So with that defense, those linebackers are always looking to tip passes. So there is a bit of a little bit of susceptibility to tipped interceptions. And so to me, this game has to be a bounce back game. This game has to be a statement game. And the Buccaneers so far have made those statements. When the last time, when week 1, when we lost to New Orleans, well, Carolina was right there to be the whipping boys, and that's when Brady threw for over 200 yards in a 31-17 victory. When we lost to Chicago and all those questions, we came back and whooped the Green Bay Packers 38-10. So now here we are on the after our worst victory of the season against our biggest rival of the year. Now what are the Bucs going to do? And to me, it comes down to all the things that we've been talking about. The play calling has to be on point. Bruce Arians has to be able to get these guys motivated and ready to come in and not lose to a team that they should beat. There should be no more excuses for Tom Brady in the offense. Brady has to have a solid comeback game. He doesn't have to throw 80-yard bombs, but you have to steady the ship. The pirate ship, no pun intended, but here we go. So there has to be a solid game out of Tom Brady. Otherwise, it doesn't matter who's at wide receiver. If he can't get the ball to them, or if the defensive line is able to bat them down and create havoc and chaos, then this Ferrari ain't going to get out of the garage. Well, on the other side of the ball, the defensive game plan has to be 100% better than it was against the Saints. They cannot be playing prevent zone defense. They have to be creating more turnovers. They can't drop interceptions like we did see in areas that might have turned the tide. They were able to get a couple turnovers, but one of them was early in the game, and like you said, we were pinned against the 3-yard line, and the other one, when Shaq Berry got one, it was kind of the game had already been decided. But this defensive game plan has to not be susceptible to the trickiness of the Panthers. They use Curtis Samuel as a speedy option to do end arounds, and he scored a touchdown against Kansas City with a kind of end around. They're going to use run pass play options. They're going to try to create havoc. Hell, they even they do fake punts. Now, here is the thing. They've done it 2 weeks in a row, so of course you wouldn't think they would do it in a third. Well, guess what? If they have to, they're going to make you think about your play calling and your position at all times. I'm hoping that what we've seen so far keeps bearing out, and that is that the Bucs, when scrutinized, they come back and they play hard and they decisively win the next game. So with all that said, I guess my prediction is I do expect both these teams, if they're playing the same way they've played all season, which is up and down, Carolina is going to be a bigger threat than I think some people are giving them credit for. Here's a team that over the past 5 games, they scored 31 points against, admittedly a shaky Kansas City defense. They scored, a couple touchdowns against Atlanta. They scored 24 points against the team that just mollywopped us and only gave up 3 points to us. And they scored a couple touchdowns against Chicago in the last 4 weeks. So with all that said, they are susceptible to the run. And if the Bucs can keep the play calling kind of 50-50 pass and run, and stay unpredictable, I think that the Bucs are going to be victorious. I think it is going to be a little closer. I think it will be the score of 28 to 23. I think that, unfortunately, Carolina is going to find ways to get points on the board. They won't all be touchdowns. There might be a lot of field goals in that 23 points. But regardless, I think that they're going to figure out ways to get in the red zone and score some points, maybe create a turnover and get into good field position that gets them a touchdown. But I think Tampa Bay, after it's all said and done, pulls out the victory, and maybe not as decisive as I would like. That's what I'm hoping for. It's what I would love to see. But being kind of cautiously optimistic, I think we win, and we win 28-23.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey, man, but a win is a win is a win as long as we do that and we're able to pull ahead. I think that, we, like I said in the beginning, this is the stretch that the Bucs are going to be able to play. Here teams like the Panthers coming up. And then you've got, the Rams and the Chiefs. But after that, it's the Vikings, 2 games against Atlanta, and Detroit kind of sandwiched in between them. So there is a chance that the Bucs can definitely get 10 wins. They only need 4 more out of all of those things that we just said. Out of the next 7 games, they only need 4 wins to get to 10. But there's even an outside chance of more than that. So that's what we're hoping here. I know that's what we've been talking about, the exciting things coming up for the rest of the season. One other thing that's exciting outside of football is the manager of the year in the American League, and that is our own Tampa's own hometown boy, Kevin Cash. He is the manager of the year. He was just named that. I think it's fitting that we kind of close the show out talking a little bit about our guy that calls the strikes and balls for the Rays. So let's get into that after the break. Welcome back to RBLR Sports, and I think it's fitting that we kind of do a victory lap for our Tampa Bay Rays, now that the offseason's in complete swing here. Kevin Cash, our manager, has been named American League Manager of the Year. And the coolest thing about this is that the voting by the Baseball Writers of America, this voting happens before the playoffs. So up to that point, the Rays had won the American League East. They had the best regular season record in the American League, and Kevin Cash was able to get 22 out of 30 first-place votes. Well, since then, so the voting was already done. What Kevin Cash was able to do is lead the Rays to their second ever American League championship, their first in a decade, and cruise to the World Series until they were not a cruise. They came back to Game 7s and all that excitement to go to the World Series and push the Dodgers to 6 games, including that iconic Game 4. So as much as they weren't able to bring home the big piece of metal, as the commissioner of baseball says, they were able to secure. They've gone farther than the Rays had ever gone in their history, and I know this was a shortened season, but this was a huge winning percentage this year, and now Kevin Cash moves into. He has the highest winning percentage of any of the managers that have ever been here for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays / Rays. And he is now the second ever manager to win Manager of the Year. The first, of course, being Madden, who won it twice in 2008 and 2011. So we've been kind of lucky that we've had a couple outstanding managers in our short history here, and now Kevin Cash gets to kind of put his name forever in the history books as a young. He's still in his 40s, young, up-and-coming manager that now has a little bit of hardware on the wall here. Musab, any quick thoughts about Kevin Cash winning Manager of the Year?
Well, I've been looking a little into it, and, after finishing third in the ballot in each of the last 2 seasons, it was nice to see that he was named American League Manager of the Year, and he received 22 to 30 first-place votes, which I think was definitely deserved. I was talking about it with my friend who's a huge Rays fan, and he was even telling me, hey, regardless of Game 6, in the World Series, Kevin Cash, yeah.
But and fair point, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But fair point. It's a fair point. But
regardless of Game 6, I think it was definitely well deserved. And he is the second Rays manager to win it after Joe Madden. So it is nice to see, although, it's not the biggest award, and obviously it's not a player award, it's just more of a manager award. It definitely shows the rest of, the league that, hey, we've come so far and we've got a great leader.
Yeah, and you look at it from the perspective of the realistic perspective is that the Rays are not the Yankees, and the Rays are not the Dodgers, and the Rays are like, for instance, this year, the payroll was $29 million. Only 2 teams are less. That's the Pirates and the Orioles. If you look at the Miami Marlins, who had a miraculous run to the playoffs this year, it was completely unexpected, and that's why David Johnson was the National League Manager of the Year. They still paid their players this year $2 million more than. That's almost. It's not quite 10% more, but it's close to. That's the biggest divide of the next team up is Miami, who's spending a small, sizable portion more than you are. And meanwhile, they have no expectation to make the playoffs. And we won the division, and we were expected to be in the hunt all year. Now, when you look back at this Rays season, I think one of the biggest stories that you have to tell is that Kevin Cash was able to make the maneuvers that were necessary after a rash of injuries came across this year. I mean, at one point, the Rays had 13 players on the injured list at the same time. Other teams like the Marlins and the Cardinals had to deal with COVID-19 taking out a bunch of people. We just had good old-fashioned, run-of-the-mill injuries plaguing our entire team. At one point, we had 5 pitchers out for the season. So you have this incredible bullpen, and that was fashioned, kind of forged in the fire, I would say, because Kevin Cash needing to pull guys up and needing to have that diversity. I mean, if you look, 12 different Rays recorded a save. And across the whole season, you didn't have one guy that was the closer. You had literally a dozen players that were being called upon to play the most pivotal innings. Now, just as Cash as a person, though, he's definitely a team first guy, and so he doesn't. I don't really think he's ever taken credit when things are going well. I think he always has deferred the credit to the organization and mostly the players. All the good things that come, he's always saying that the players were responsible, and I think that goes to his own personal history. He was, and he'll be the first one to tell you, he wasn't exactly the best baseball player. He had a very forgettable career, but as a manager, he's shown that he keeps it loose in the clubhouse. He being a player himself, he kind of has understood kind of the temperament that there needs to be, and he's definitely the one who gets the team fired up because he always has their back. During the whole melee with the Yankees throwing at dudes' heads and like the brawls and all that stuff that could have happened, Kevin Cash was fiery. He got up. He on the mic and on the field, he stuck up for his players. And that doesn't even get into kind of his on the field acumen, and that is just this complete ability to go with what the front office wants. Now, being that the Rays are technically a small market team and they don't spend a lot of money on their team, they do have to find these inefficiencies, this money ball, the analytical side of it. And that's one of the reasons why Kevin Cash even got the job, why they gave the job to a unproven young guy, is that they knew that he would execute the front office game plan, which is absolutely defensive shifts, kind of getting guys that have specific traits at specific areas in the lineup, and kind of like not having one or two guys that are your linchpins, but having all 9 guys in the lineup. They do certain things, and that's why they're maybe in the 3rd hole or the 7th to bring up the bottom of the order, so that when you get that leadoff guy, a big on-base percentage guy in that first leadoff spot, like every piece has a role, and when you see them all work in tandem, that's how you get a dominating performance like we saw the Rays do all of this shortened season. And looking in between the lines, Kevin Cash is absolutely to blame or to credit for the opener being a thing in baseball. With all these pitchers going down, and even a couple years ago, kind of formulating this plan where instead of needing 5 solid starters, or even if you wanted to kind of extend that rest day for a guy like Blake Snell or Tyler Glasnow or something like that, you can implement, instead of just a spot starter, one of the guys in your bullpen that can happen to go a few more innings, or a guy that you've converted into a reliever but used to be a starter, you can actually just have a planned bullpen day, and you start with, your closer, your what you would call your top reliever, and have him pitch the first time through the lineup or the first couple innings, and then you bring in your middle relief and your long inning relief guys. that's a trend that started here. And that was picked up by the Red Sox and the Yankees and all these other teams that use analytics. But all of that was bred right here by Kevin Cash and the Rays. Another thing that I think is important is that Kevin Cash uses more pitchers than the average manager because of those kind of analytical tendencies. And we saw that in Game 6 in the World Series, where the biggest, I guess some would say, mistake that he made, but it wasn't out of character. This is a guy who uses his relievers like he has a dozen aces in the hole, and he likes to utilize the statistics to tell him which pitchers should go against which hitters, and kind of using that blueprint. He never went away from it, even though he could have changed what he was trying to do in the World Series. He stuck to his guns, and even when asked, he said he would do it over again. And while I might have reservations about, who he brought in at that particular time, or whether or not he should have took Snell out in the first place when he was in the middle of a one-hitter, that doesn't necessarily always play out the way you want it to. And so he had faith in his relievers, and he's had faith in his relievers all year. So as much as it didn't work out the way we wanted it to, it wasn't off-brand, and that kind of brand has brought us to the dance and brought him the Manager of the Year trophy. So I just had it short and sweet about Kevin Cash winning a little bit of hardware after winning the American League Championship. So anything? I know I've been talking on and on about that.
No. Whatever you've been saying is, I can absolutely agree with you. And just, I haven't seen him for a while, but I will say, since I've been watching, especially this year so far, he seems bold. As you said, he has a variety of pitchers. He seems aggressive, but also in a calm way, and also interesting, and definitely something that we can talk about a lot. And I think he's someone who's also very aware of his actions. He at times he takes he takes his blame. For example, for a game against the Yankees. When I was watching, I remember he was saying that, hey, it's poor judgment and poor coaching and poor teaching on me. He kind of just putting it all on me, which is something I do appreciate. It's I would say not all coaches, but some coaches, they talk about, the offense or the defense or yada this, yada that, whatever didn't work out or whatever. But it's like, well, there's a reason. There might be a reason why, and he explains that, our losses or a specific loss didn't work because it was my poor judgment or poor coaching or poor teaching, and especially when it came to the playoff time, it seemed to me that Kevin Cash manages a clubhouse where players are respected, fun is encouraged, and hard work is expected. He rarely shows a ton of emotion, often keeping very calm, almost dry with the media. But when he does express himself, he definitely lets the media know and his players know exactly how he feels. So it's not like he's running away from a big loss or a small loss or a tough loss. He's ready to speak up about it when he feels is the right time. So, to earn AL Manager of the Year, Kevin Cash led the race, the best record in the American League, winning the AL East going away, all while dealing with the most stressful and kind of interesting season on record. And I really do like him and the whole Rays team kind of maintaining that energy and spirit throughout a long, work stoppage, with the pandemic and a second spring training. So it's not easy, going through, all these kind of loopholes, especially during this year of 2020 with coronavirus and how just, everything kind of got shut down in the beginning of the year. So definitely a shout out to him, for bringing this team so far. Obviously it would have been nice if we won the World Series, but, someone also has to lose. So it is what it is, and it's all good. And I think being AL Manager of the Year it's a very high honor. So and he has big things coming for him. If since he's already won AL Manager of the Year, I'm sure he has many more wins, and hopefully he'll take us to the World Series again, or maybe a few more times, hopefully. So, and the nice part is having AL Manager of the Year and then having a team that's come so far. It's just really nice to see everything's been working out. Um, as mentioned before, right now I just said someone does have to lose, but sometimes the team makes a few mistakes, or management, or the manager makes a few mistakes, or maybe poor judgment. But it's okay. You learn from your mistakes. He's got a good brain to lead our team to many more wins in the future.
Yeah, and with the Rays, they kind of have to find those diamonds in the rough, and I think that giving the chance to a guy like Cash a few years ago, was definitely one of those high risk, high reward scenarios. But what they've turned around is they found a guy in Kevin Cash who makes it work, especially with these young players that the Rays have. I mean, when you think of the core that was the leaders of the team this year, it was 25-year-old Brandon Lau, 24-year-old Willie Adames, 26-year-old Mike Brosseau, 25-year-old Randy Arozarena in the playoffs, right? And Margot's 25, and all these guys. These are the guys that they're looking forward to now and in the future of being kind of, let's be honest, inexpensive talent that is going to overperform what their paychecks are, because. That's just how it works. That's why you make a trade for Tyler Glasnow. He's only 26 years old, and he sort of struggled, but he was still a very highly touted young arm from the Pirates. You've got guys. I mean, even like Ryan Yarborough's 28, Nick Anderson's 29. I guess you're a little up there, but not. That's not old. I mean, you're still got a couple more years of prime young. Late 20s, early 30s. So with all that said, I mean, a lot of these guys are coming back, and Cash is the kind of manager that's been able to utilize these pieces and make these young guys overperform. So it's definitely exciting as a Rays fan. I mean, it doesn't get more exciting than going to the World Series. The only thing better is winning the World Series. And I think they've got the right guy in the right time with the right players to strike fear in the rest of the AL East and the American League while they still have Kevin Cash as the manager. So
Absolutely.
So that was it. That's all I've got for this week. And the Rowdies unfortunately didn't get to win the championship, and they didn't get to have the parade. But in my mind, we beat Phoenix, and we had a really good socially distanced parade down the Riverwalk and everything. And down in downtown St. Pete, just is having a blast. But did you happen to check out the headline about Randy Arozarena's life being being made into a movie?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to think, who do we think is gonna play Randy Arozarena in the movie?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know, actually.
I would say, I mean, the looks aren't there, but you've got to have Michael B. Jordan, he was Killmonger in Black Panther. He was Creed in Creed 1 and Creed 2. Just a stellar, athletically looking guy, and he's Randy's a handsome man. I'm confident enough to admit that. So you got to get a kind of younger looking athletic actor, and Michael B. Jordan would be my guy. So with all that said, I think that's going to do it here for RBLR Sports this week. Let's get a bounce back game for the Bucs, and let's keep doing our victory lap for the Rays as Cash brings home some hardware. And I'm looking for another one of these weeks that we had where we just demolished the Green Bay Packers, or when we demolished the Panthers the first time in week 2. So with all that, Musab, anything before we get out of here, buddy?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right, guys. Well, please, we thank each and every one of you for listening to us. Please, if you want to go one step above that, follow us on all forms of social media. We are at RBLR Sports. And remember, if you're on Apple Podcasts, if you're on Spotify, if you're on Stitcher, or any of the podcast platforms, remember to like and subscribe. Speaking of like and subscribe, check us out on YouTube. I'm opening up some sports cards every week. Of course, the podcast is up there, and we'll have more things in the future. But when you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. So once again, we can't do it without all of you listening, and we thank you. Leave us a voicemail, 813-778-5280. If you leave us a message, and we will pick the best questions to answer on the podcast. Musab, man, have a great week. I will be seeing you next time, buddy.
Sounds good. You have a good one as well, Eureka.
All right, guys. See you.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.